And are you refreshed?
Yes.
Good. Now what? Supposed to be getting less and less, but it never does it? More and more and more.
You've spoken to it a couple of times, and there's something that's not landing for me, which is around quieting the mind during meditation.
Good.
And for me, in the past 2 weeks, I've had some of the highest highs, meaning I felt most connected to Source than I ever have. Also, some of the biggest emotional triggers that I'm using to be less aware of my connection with Source.
That's normal, because when you really accomplish that meditation and a true syncing up with who you are, then your awareness of what that feels like is more active, keener, so that then when you're not there, you really feel it. People have said to us, is it normal for all hell to break loose in my life? And we say at first it is, because it just amplifies your sensitivity before you have accomplished your true control of your vibrational mix. Yes, it gets better and better.
Yes. And so as those two things are happening, when I'm more aware of Source, obviously the meditation is really easy and I sink in and open up immediately.
Yes.
And as these other things are popping up that are more challenging, I'm experiencing more resistance to going to that place of quietude. So any guidance?
We encourage that you meditate as early in the day as you can before you've had a chance to get other things activated. That helps a lot. Also, don't be rigid about it, and don't adopt the attitude that I've got to sync up and stay there, because that's sort of unnatural. Just sync up and know it. The way we would approach it if we were standing in your physical shoes is we would meditate and then see as far as we could go into the day and maintain our balance. And then whatever happens, happens, because law of attraction is going to have its way with you. There are things you can do. We've taught processes like reach for a better feeling thought. That can help. And if you're really sensitive, then you might notice it as you begin to tip, and you might be able to, with focus, pull your thoughts in the other direction. But usually when you try that, you just make it worse, because now you're on the subject, now you're acknowledging you've got a problem, now you're mad at yourself for not maintaining your vibration, and it just gets worse. And so we want you to take a really easy approach to it, that law of attraction is going to respond to whatever I've got going on. And what I've got going on has to be all right with me, because it's what I've got going on vibrationally. I can't buck my own current, so beating up on myself about it is not going to help. But then if you look at it this way, the reason that we encourage you to meditate every day is because your alignment is a progressive thing. So you do get better and better and better at finding the connection and maintaining it longer. You get so good at it that in time, it really takes something extraordinary, like something from your way back past, or something that happens to somebody that you care about that you can't control, but you're there to observe it, that sort of thing. So this is the approach that we would take. I'm reaching for that quieted place for the purpose of alignment. Period. Period. It isn't the end of the world if I don't maintain it. What I find is enough, and it has to be, because it's what I found. It's enough. So here I am, and that's enough. And here I am, and that's enough. But this is the underlying understanding that will help you. Every day you meditate, and this is what we mean by it's a progressive thing. Every day you meditate, let's say that you have this mix of vibrations, which, as we mentioned yesterday, is all about your desires and your beliefs. It's just active thoughts. A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. And so whatever you got going on, these are just thoughts that you usually think. And the reason you usually think them is because law of attraction is helping you to continue to think the thoughts that you've got going. So when you say, I need to exercise more willpower and more control, we say law of attraction is a very powerful thing. So don't set yourself up for failure by saying, I'm not going to think about that, because you're thinking about it while you're saying you're not going to think about it. But if you think of meditation as this powerful tool that infuses your mix of vibration a little more every day with who you really are and what you really know. So you could say, when you meditate, you water your resistance down. When you meditate, you water your resistance down. Now, it doesn't actually work the other way, because when you get really aggravated about something, you don't water your inner being's connection, your inner being down. Your inner being is unwaterable downable. Your inner being is stable there in that vibration. So every time you meditate, you dilute this resistance a little more until the mix of your vibrations just becomes more clear, less cluttered, more aligned, less confused, more clarity, less confusion, more love, less hate. In other words, it's just a gradual thing that happens. And let it be okay for it to be gradual. Esther said to someone the other day, because she was being very feisty and funny and blunt for the purpose of funny, and she says, don't bother me, I've been meditating and now I'm mean. But what she meant was, I've been meditating and now I'm full of myself. I'm full of myself, and so I'm not walking on eggshells around anybody. I don't care if it's corny, I'm happy kind of attitude. Just keep watering your resistance down with clarity. Helpful?
Very, thank you.
Something more?
The things that have been coming up that have been triggered that I was saying are...
Because meditation will show you what's not in alignment.
Exactly. Are a heck of a lot of shame and guilt. Everything you brought forth in the past day and a half addresses, I think, how to be with those. I do find myself, I don't have a particular question about that.
We want to give this to you in a very strong way. When you feel negative emotion, it always means exactly this. When I feel negative emotion in my human form, it always means exactly this. I'm looking at a subject with an opinion, and my inner being does not share that opinion. So when I'm mad at myself, my inner being isn't, and the resulting emotion will be one that doesn't feel very good, that you might call shame. Sometimes you call it guilt. Sometimes you call it blame, because then your shame turns you into a defensive stance. But if you remember, my inner being must not be thinking what I'm thinking, or I wouldn't feel this way. Esther said to us pretty early on, once she really understood that it meant a difference of opinion between us and her when she felt negative emotion. And sometimes she felt so justified in her negative emotion that she would say, Abraham, you need more information about this. If you knew what I knew, you'd come over here and you'd feel like I do. And if you'd look at it like I look at it, then I wouldn't have to feel bad, okay? She's being a little playful about that because she knows we're not coming over there. We're not going to look at it that way. When she gets tired of feeling bad, she's not going to look at it that way either. She's going to stop holding to negative beliefs out of habit for no reason. A belief is just a thought you continue to think. She would argue with us, but Abraham, it's true. We would say lovingly, what's that got to do with anything? There are a lot of true things that you don't want in your experience. Something being true only means somebody focused upon it until they got the momentum of it going, until they were ready to manifest it. That's why it's true. Because what you call true is what's manifested. And in light of what we've been talking about over these 2 days, doesn't that sound silly? Because you can create wanted or unwanted, and once it manifests, then everybody says, oh, that's true. That's a fact. Therefore, we should all give this fact our undivided attention. And we say, we encourage you to give a fact your undivided attention if you want to bring more things just like it directly to you. So, shame is painful, isn't it? Because it is your depriving yourself of who you really are and what you really want. And it's interesting, you know that because the way you paralleled these questions when you said, the more I meditate, the more those habits of thoughts feel off to me. The more off the off thoughts are, the more off they feel. That's very profound. That's a bumper sticker right there. Pretty long one. The more off the off thoughts feel, the more off they are. Yeah. And you could take whatever it is, and you could talk about it, we could talk about it with you, and we could use our words to flood the field, and we could affect some shift within you. Or you could meditate, and the energy of Source would shift the feeling within you. When Source adores you as Source does, and you let that happen without contradicting it or blocking it with your shameful thought, after a little while, that just goes away. It's irrelevant. It's watered down into non-existence because it was an anomaly. It's not real. It's not part of your eternal path. It's a hiccup you picked up along your physical trail from some other person who was disconnected, and that's the best way they could explain something to themselves and then to you. Some other person who wanted to feel better and thought they needed to control you in order for them to feel better. That's pretty interesting and comical when you think about it.
It's so absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough?
Yes.
Really good.